Hey guys, GingerGamer87 here, back again with today's video where we're going to be covering our in-as Raiment Generator set. This is the perfect set to get yourself Greater Rift 70 and above to unlock your Primal Ancients, and also it's actually pretty good at speed farming. I wouldn't say it's a full speed farm build, but you can do really well with this build. So breakdown the video is going to be, we're going to kick off with skills, then we're going to look at the items and the little bit of synergy between the items and the skills, and then we're going to move down to the cube, and I'm going to have a little bit of gameplay footage going in the top corner of me clearing our Greater Rift 70 over the weekend. I would ignore the fact that I died a lot. That's no part of the build's fault. That is pretty much just me being an idiot and standing shit that I shouldn't be. So without doing that, I cleared the rift with about 52 seconds left. Probably would have cleared it with about 4 minutes left, give or take. Pretty much because I was sitting on a full 30-second res counter for the last part of the instance or rift. So let's get into it, guys. Skills, you're going to be going with Breath of Heaven infused with light. This is mainly because you want the additional spirit to keep yourself in a Shenlong's window for longer, which means you do more damage. Epiphany, Desert Shroud. You're using Desert Shroud to infuse yourself with sand, reducing the damage you take by 50%. It's also good for teleporting around the map, which comes into it more when we have a cooldown shrine. You can keep this up, or you can also keep your dash and strike on, and you can just zoom around the map, killing stuff, cyclone striking them in, grouping them all up, blowing them up, moving on. It is really good, and that's kind of how these two work throughout a speedrun as well. Crippling Wave, Mangle. Every third hit dazes enemies within 11 yards, slowing their movement speed by 30% and attack speed by 20%. This is really good for our DPS. The faster we hit, the more they're dazing them, and it works really well. Dash and Strike Radiance, you gain 15% increased attack speed for 4 seconds after using Dash and Strike, which is very much the offensive ruin. If you are struggling, you can put on Blinding Speed, which gain 40% increased chance to dodge for 4 seconds after you use it, so you can use it as a defensive skill rather than an offensive skill, and just use it every 4 or 5 seconds or so just to keep that buff up, and then pair that with Epiphany. If you've got that on, you've got like a 90% damage reduction, which is really good. But I prefer at the moment to use Radiance because I don't really struggle with any other greater risk, but as you push higher, I might have to swap that over. Cyclone Strike Implosion. You're going to pull 16 enemies within 34 yards towards you, followed by a furious blast of energy. We're not too bothered about the damage from it. It's mainly because we want to pull all the enemies we can to keep that density up, just to keep DPSing them down with Crippling Wave. Mantra Salvation. It gives you 20% increased resistance to all elements for 3 seconds when you activate it, and passively you and your allies within 60 yards gain 20% increased resistance and 35% increased dodge chance. So keep it as a passive for 35% dodge, and then if we are struggling, we can pop it to get our resistances boosted, just to try and save the damage that we're going to be taking. Passive skill wise, we're going to be running Seize the Initiative. Dealing damage to enemies above 75% life increases your attack speed by 30% for 4 seconds. Very good. Harmony, 40% of your single elemental resistances from items instead increases your resistance to all elements, which is good. Alacrity increases your attack speed of spirit generators by 15%. Obviously we're running Crippling Wave, so that's got 15% increased attack speed. Reduced all cooldowns by 20%, simply just to keep this off cooldown, and every now and then this comes off cooldown just to get your DPS boosted. So that's the skill, guys. And then we're going to go on to our items. Item wise, starting at the top and working our way down, we've got the In-as Radiance. My items aren't synergized 100% to what the build needs, so I'm going to put these on the screen as we go through them, and I'll just talk you through the stat priority that you want to be looking for. So stat priority for In-as Radiance, you want to be looking for Dexterity. Then you want to be looking for Fire Resistance, and then vitality for HP. Obviously you want your crit on there as well. Shoulders, you want to have the mantle of the upside down sinners, which is the Raiment set, which is the mandatory item because there isn't an inner shoulder, so you need this one of the Raiment items. And you want to be going for dex, vitality, area damage, and cooldown reduction on skills. This isn't too far away. I've got reduced resource cost, mystic ally damage, area damage, dex. Could be better, but it's just a little bit off. Like I say, these items aren't synergized, so bear that in mind as I'm going through them. Some of them are decent, some of them are bad, some of them are good. So as we go through, you'll see this. Traveler's Pledge, because we want to be using the Endless Walk set of the Traveler's Pledge and the Compass Rose, which gives us the buff of moving. You have damage reduced by 50%, and while you stand still, damage is increased by up to 100%. So as we're going to be standing still, using Cyclone Strike to pull enemies in with Crippling Wave just mashed down all the time, we're going to have that 100% buff going, and using Cyclone Strike just to keep pulling them in, just to keep it going so we don't lose any damage. I'm trying to maximize that. So stats on your amulet, you want to go for a socket, obviously for your gem. You want to go for crit hit chance, crit hit damage, fire damage. So, like I say, we're a little bit short on that, but it's not too bad. It's a decent starting item and it's an ancient. I can live with that one. Torso, we want to have Inner's Refuge, and we want to go for sockets, dexterity, vitality, and reduced damage from elites. Now, this one has health globe points that grant 36,000 life reforged onto it, which is because I use this in my ZDPS build as well. So that's why that one's on there. Wrists, we want to be using the Spirit Guards, and the stat priority on this is fire damage, dex, crit hit chance, vitality. So as you can see, my one is pretty decent rolls on that. Got 20% fire damage, we've got a decent amount of dexterity, we've nearly max vitality, and we're only 0.5% away from 6% crit hit chance, which is really good. I do like that. Hands, we want to be using the Fists of Thunder, which is the second part of the Raiment build. Now you can mix this up a little bit. If you were missing an Inner's chest and had a Raiment chest, you could use Inner's gloves instead. There is a little bit of interplay with the Inner's items, but like I say, you do have to use the Raiment shoulders, guys. I'm just using Fist of Thunder because it's the best item that I have at the moment. And on this, you want to be looking for dexterity, crit hit chance, crit hit damage, area damage. So in a perfect world, we would have had the crit hit damage, the crit hit chance, the dex, and I would have rolled off the vitality for the area damage. But unfortunately, we're one short on that. But let's see, we can live with that. It's still pretty decent. Next, we're going to do Inner's Favor, which is your waist slot, and you want to be running dexterity, vitality, skill, crippling wave, and resistance to all. So for us, we are a little bit short on that, but like I say, it's an ancient. It was an upgrade to the one we were using, but pretty happy with that. Next, in the leg slot, we want to be using Inner's Temperance with sockets, dexterity, vitality, and again, you can get skill roll onto it for crippling wave, even better, because we're looking to buff this one skill that we're using all the time to as much damage as we can. So we're going to get 100% extra damage from using Traveler's Pledge and Compass Rose while we're standing still. If you can get the skill damage on your belt and pants, that's another sort of I think it's 15% that can go to as a max, 15%, yeah. And then on there, it's like another 30% increased damage, give or take, which all adds up as you're going through these higher rifts. In our feet slot, we want to be using Inner Sandals with dex, vitality, and movement speed. Pretty decent. I'm looking to try and get an ancient version of these just to buff up the damage and stuff like that. In our ring slots, as we've already mentioned, we want to be using our Compass Rose, and the stats that you want to go for on these is socket, crit hit damage, crit hit chance, and dexterity. Depending on what you're using, I would drop dexterity for area damage. This is slightly off. Perfect world, we would have been able to have the crit hit chance already on it, roll the dexterity off for crit hit damage, plus the area damage, it would have been laughing. But, I say, not optimized, it's almost there. And it served pretty well because we cleared a greater Rift 70, didn't we? Right? Unity in your second slot, because the damage as you go up is going to be quite painful. Obviously make sure that your follower does have it as well, so you don't just not pass any damage over, but your Templar or follower that you use does need the relic for they cannot die. Obviously if you don't have that, they'll die, you'll not split the damage, you'll die. Weapons, we're going to be using Shenlong's Fist of Legend and Relentless Assault. So Fist of Legend, you want to be looking for dexterity, life on hit, area damage, and a socket. Personally, I've rolled area damage onto these items because I've used the gift to put on sockets. In our offhand, Relentless Assault, you want to have dex, area damage, cooldown reduction, and then use a gift for a socket. Legendary gem, guys, you're going to be using your Simplicity Strength, Bane of the Stricken, Bane of the Trapped. And over in our cube, if we can get there, we're going to be using Flying Dragon, chance to double your attack speed when attacking, which is really good because we're going to be attacking quite quickly anyway with Crippling Wave. Kudos Boots, Mystic Allies summons 2 allies that fight by your side. And Royal Ring of the Grandeur reduces the number of items needed for set bonuses. That's purely so we can get these two. For the Spirit Generator has increased 25% attack speed and 100% increased damage. And then obviously so we can get the 5 Mystic Allies, which means that we get all the mantras at the same time, which works really well. And excuse my dog as she chokes. So going through this build, guys, you want to be making sure that you are using Dash and Strike to get around the map and constantly use it every so often just to keep that attack speed bonus up. And you also want to be making sure that you're using Cyclone Strike to pull enemies to you to keep the density up rather than going to the enemies. If you can dash around the map and get a big clump of enemies and just sit in the middle, tank the damage and just DPS them down, that's perfect. You want to try and minimize the amount of time that you spent running to enemies just so you can make the most out of the Compass Rose and Traveler's Pledge buff. Also, the best way to do it is just keep Crippling Wave pressed down and just spam all these other skills. So as you're fighting, be fighting along, and you'll be able to see that we get the Shenlong buff. All damage is increased for passive spirit. Let's get that up so you can see it. The damage your spirit generator is increased by 1.5% for each point of spirit you have, so we want to try and keep it as high as we can. When reaching a maximum spirit, all damage is increased by 150%, but you no longer passively regenerate spirit, and 65 spirit is drained every second until you run out of spirit, which you can see is happening now. So the whole idea with this build is that if your spirit is half or below, you just want to let it run out and then recharge back up to full so you can get the buff back for your damage. And if we can try and get this up so you can see I've got 950k DPS at the moment. So now if we dash and strike, it's up to 1 million, and then if we use that and we'll get it up, go, it goes to 1.9 million. That wasn't exactly a perfect example. You can pretty much buff your DPS to like over 2 million or so, I believe. And the way to do it is when you're in that Shenlong's window, is that's when you want to be casting Breath of Heaven. So it pops your spirit back up and starts recharging as you're hitting enemies, and you can keep it there for longer. So you want to be hitting, and obviously as you're hitting enemies, this skill recharges spirit, and you want to try and keep it up at about that level, 3/4 full or more. And the longer it stays there, the more damage you're going to be doing, guys. And that's why Rift Guardians absolutely melt with this build, especially with being on the stricken. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry I don't have the fully optimized kit. I am going to put, you would have seen the labels on screen, just reiterating the stats that you should be having ideally in the gameplay in the top corner. Like I say, don't be put off by the amount of times I died. That was purely my mistakes, nothing to do with the build. That's just me being an idiot. Stay tuned for more monk guides coming over the course of season 10 and some other build guides on some other classes as we progress through the season, and some other videos. If you'd like to see all this stuff done live, you can head over to my Twitch TV, which is linked on the screen below and in the comments down below. So please smash that like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel, show your support, and pop along to the Twitch and see us playing live, where we are going to be pushing leaderboards as we progress through the season. Thanks for checking out the video, guys.